Crypto privacy may be the most important crypto narrative of the next 5 years. Zcash is leading the way, up 11x this year, but in my opinion, it's only the beginning of a much bigger trend. In today's video, I'm going to be giving you a full breakdown of the privacy sector, the exact problems it's solving, why institutions are flocking to private blockchains instead of public rails like Solana and Ethereum. And finally, I'm going to be giving you a list of my favorite projects that are building in the privacy narrative and going through my positioning. If you enjoy content like this, make sure you subscribe to the channel. I do more of these deep dive style videos over on the Crypto Edge channel as well. So if you want more videos like this, you can subscribe over there. I'll leave a link in the description below. Remember, this video is for entertainment purposes only. Nothing in here is financial advice, and make sure to do your own research before investing. I'll leave a full disclosure that you should read in the description below. So firstly, let's identify the problem. There's a roadblock that's halting institutions from entering the crypto space. And it's the fact that a lot of retail blockchains like Solana and Ethereum aren't created for institutional mass adoption. They don't have the correct privacy preserving architecture. They don't have the correct compliance to make these big funds like Goldman Sachs and BlackRock to actually use blockchain rails, even though they all know it's more efficient in their day-to-day operations. That is starting to change now. We've seen some chains now arise with trillions of dollars of value, not just billions of dollars, because of some of the recent unlocks that we've seen in the privacy space. And I think if we want to see trillions of more dollars entering the crypto space, this is needed technology for mass institutional adoption. It's especially bullish for the RWA sector in crypto, asset tokenization, which I think is one of the big catalysts for the next bout of liquidity to come into the space, considering by now it's already a relatively saturated niche from a retail perspective. It's very clear that this cycle is the cycle of institutions. 2021 was retail, 2025 and going forward is all about institutional capital. So understanding the barriers for institutions and then looking at some of the beneficiaries of institutions is going to be the way to make the most money in the crypto market over the coming 5 years. But privacy isn't just something that is unique to crypto. It was actually one of the big things that held back the adoption of the internet back in the 1990s. The internet only went mainstream after the implementation of the HTTPS standard, which allowed you to send private data safely. You didn't used to have this, and that held a lot of companies back and operators from uploading their data to the internet because it simply wasn't private enough. And crypto is in a similar predicament right now. To fully get the benefits of building on crypto rails, we need better privacy. The transparency of crypto is great, but the reality is institutions don't value that. They want to be able to move funds around for their big clients without someone being able to peek into their wallet. I mean, how ridiculous would it be to have your bank account essentially doxed to the general public? That's pretty much the same situation right now if you have a crypto wallet. People can see exactly how much you hold. Now, maybe for the average crypto person, this is normal and maybe even expected, but for institutions, it's a big no-no. They need something that is way more secure, that is private, but is also compliant, because transparency opens up a massive risk. And the way that the current blockchains are structured with their proof of stake, which is a deterrent to getting the correct regulatory compliance that these companies need to be able to move around vast sums of money, complete AML checks, and go through the standard procedures that occurs on traditional rails. So the big breakthrough technology for crypto has been the breakthrough of ZK. ZK allows you to prove something without having to reveal that underlying thing. For example, you can prove to an application that you have $1,000 in a wallet without having to reveal that you have $1,000 in a wallet. Or you can prove your identity, that you are who you say you are, without all of your data having to be revealed to an application. You can start to just brainstorm some of the crazy use cases that this technology can have in terms of verification in the AI age, in terms of sending money around without people being able to see how much money you're sending around, in terms of being able to interact with DeFi without people seeing what you're interacting with. There are so many use cases which make ZK the unlock technology for everything else. Now, over the past few years, ZK's really ramped up. Vitalik has started talking about implementing it into Ethereum, although it's happening slowly. We've seen many blockchains and L2s implement ZK, but now we are seeing the next wave of ZK, which are protocols that are custom built for compliance on top of ZK. And we're gonna get into a couple later in the video that I think have huge potential, so make sure you stick around until then. But ZK is the unlock technology that's making all of this possible. ZK proofs have actually become one of the most essential components of the blockchain tech stack that we actually need to advance as an industry. And the interest for these privacy proofs is actually higher than ever. I've got some data here. We see Google searches at all-time highs for Zcash and Railgun. We've seen Zcash's shielded pool supply grew to nearly 4 million ZEC, so there's real adoption happening here. There are flows through Railgun, which is one of these protocols, hitting all-time highs. And many big players and projects are pushing privacy developments in 2025. It's undoubtedly the future of the space. And this comes at a time where a lot of big nations around the world, we've seen Great Britain, we've seen Europe, starting to flirt with slightly Orwellian policies in terms of not allowing people to spend certain amounts of cash. Like there was recent news that the UE is going to ban cash payments over $10,000 and will require ID for every Bitcoin transaction starting in 2027. You're seeing cash phase out of a lot of countries. This actually allows governments to get even more control. They want to monitor your crypto payments. They want you to have to declare if you hold a certain amount of crypto. All of these policies are also going to get a lot of mainstream attention as we head towards them, which is going to put more of a spotlight on the need for privacy, which makes the narrative not only interesting from a technological perspective, but also from a narrative point of view. And we know crypto operates on narratives, it operates on flows, it operates on attention. I definitely see this as something that's going to be getting a lot of attention over the coming years. We know that some central banks want to introduce CBDCs. We know where things are going. It's a little bit freaky, and privacy directly counters that. And obviously there's a lot of water to go under the bridge in terms of how governments will actually view the use of privacy protocols in crypto. But from a narrative perspective, we know it's going to be popular. We know it's going to get a lot of pushback, and that just helps with the overall attention going to this sector. There are some use cases, however, which I definitely think are obvious and governments may actually choose to implement using ZK. And we can discuss that later because it leads into like where the future of the world's going with UBI. And I think this is where privacy becomes a very interesting sector for crypto. It goes beyond just, retail adoption and trading volumes, etc., like a lot of other narratives in the space. It has like a much broader use case here. It's like alongside asset tokenization. So now let's look at some of the chains, some of the protocols that are building using privacy rails, and I'll give you my thoughts on them and I'll give you some options, and of course, go and research your own stuff as well. I think this video will serve as a nice introduction to privacy and establish the narrative. But if you're serious on it, dive deeper, learn about it, research it, use Grok, watch other videos that I'll create in the future. Make sure you're subscribed and go deeper down the rabbit hole, because this is not something that's a fad for me. This is something that I'm going to keep looking into, keep researching, have my research team researching over the coming years, really, and especially over the coming months. So I think it would be remiss of me not to start with Zcash. This is the sector leader. The mindshare's been going crazy. The price action's been growing crazy. I think it's up over an 11x this year. I recently hit a really good trade on Zcash in the Mars High Club, so I was able to get an entry, which is really good. I'll put it up on the screen. I've also built a small spot position. Now, I didn't get the full spot entry I wanted. I was glad that I was able to offset that a little bit with a perp long, so I can probably roll some of those profits into a Zcash spot long on the next dip. I think Zcash is an interesting bet, and I'm going to do another video on Crypto Edge, which breaks down Zcash specifically, which is on my second channel. So make sure you subscribe to that down below if you want the full Zcash deep dive. But the TLDR is, I think it's an interesting bet because it's basically the Bitcoin of privacy. And I think as one of the most established protocols, and with its proof of work consensus and how it's been around for a long time and it's built up this loyal community, it's in a very good position to achieve sustainability in markets. And that's not something that we see from a lot of protocols. Once again, it's a risky bet because if it doesn't gain traction, now that you're buying it at inflated prices, there's room for downside essentially because it's run up so much. So I don't think it's a sure bet, but for me personally, I'm taking a bet that over the next few years, privacy will become a bigger narrative, and this is the clear sector leader. And if I want to anchor my privacy portfolio, holding it there makes sense because I get the alpha, which is, ZEC, and then I can have my beta plays as well, which we'll get into later in today's video too. So I'm building a position, but I'm doing it on dips because remember, if you have a long-term thesis on a coin, then why would you enter based on short-term price action? If you have a long-term thesis, you position long-term by getting your cost basis as low as possible. And the way you do that is through getting in on big dips. The next one that is also an OG in this space is Monero. This has been a leader for a while. It's essentially a digital cash that conceals the sender, receiver, and amount of every single transaction, which allows your money to move anonymously without anyone tracking it. The only thing with Monero is it has a bit of a bad reputation because of some of its use cases. I know there's been stories of money laundering and hackers and stuff using Monero. So I think it has a little bit more tail risk in terms of a clampdown, but I still think in terms of, a sector leader, it's worth looking into. Now onto some of the newer ones that I find interesting because really a lot of this breakthrough tech only really happened in the last year or so. So there are a lot of newer protocols which are coming to market Just keep in mind, check the vesting terms. If a newer protocol has unlocks, it can mean price can stay suppressed even though the market cap can stay the same or can be going up. That's a little bit different from older coins which have more established tokenomics. The first one is Humanity Protocol. This is very interesting because we discussed before about UBI. So in the future, there could definitely be a universal basic income which comes in due to a lot of the job displacement happening because of AI. In this case, you'll basically need people to verify who they are in order to get these payments. And the problem with verification in the digital age of AI is it'll be very hard to prove who's a human and who's not a human. I mean, even for social media platforms, for online banking, even for DeFi applications online, there's going to need to be some sort of proof of humanity, because just uploading a document won't be enough. You'll need an actual biometric passport. So the best way to do it is through biometrics. This is why Sam Altman started WorldCoin, because he saw the use case here. The problem with WorldCoin is they do collect a lot of your data, whereas with ZK technology, as we've been discussing, you can actually keep your data truly anonymous whilst also verifying your humanity. Zcash protects what you do, so it enables private transactions. Humanity protects who you are. Next, in terms of new protocols, and this is the big one I think in terms of its potential, is Canton Network. Now, obviously, just because the network has potential doesn't mean the token's guaranteed to go up. I want to make clear that you should always research all of these tokens. And I'm also not saying ape all of these tokens, So they have huge backers, Goldman Sachs, Polychain Capital, Binance Labs. They're already appealing to institutions, and they already have trillions of dollars in value committed to the network as well, which makes it the biggest network in crypto for RWAs or tokenized assets already, just due to their connections in the traditional space. Why have these big players decided to partner or work with Canton? Well, it's because they've developed technology using privacy preserving architecture that's also compliant, and institutions love that. So they're happier handing over trillions of dollars in TVL than going through a public network like Solana or Ethereum. They're different use cases. I'm not saying Ethereum's dead. It's a great retail chain, and eventually they're going to implement more ZK technology. They're going to get costs down, and they might become more appealing for institutions. But right now, over the next few years, I see custom built blockchain architecture as a better way to get exposure. Canton's one of them, but obviously it's a newer protocol, still hasn't found its price floor fully. So I'm not saying ape in, but do your research into that ecosystem, especially because I think it's an interesting one. And then the last one I wanted to point out today, Railgun. So Railgun is basically a privacy shield for your crypto wallet on the blockchain. So it essentially lets you interact with DeFi, but you can hide your token balances, transaction amounts, and history from the public view. So you can basically trade, lends, use DeFi apps anonymously without having to leave the main network. And it's gaining a lot of traction. So this is one of the protocols also highlighted by Vitalik and supported by the Ethereum Foundation. It's actually gaining real traction. And I like projects that are gaining real traction in any space, but especially a narrative like privacy. Yes, we know it's a big narrative, but we also want to look at the stuff which is actually increasing its user base, increasing its volume, and Railgun, fits into that category. So these are some of the protocols I'm focusing on. There are more that I'm researching. This isn't my final list forever. I have exposure to some of these projects, but I'm looking for new stuff, and I'm still actively changing my positioning. So make sure you're subscribed for updates, because I'm still researching. I'm going to bring new stuff to you on the channel. Make sure you subscribe to Crypto Edge as well, using the link in the description, because we're going to do some deep dives on projects like Zcash, so you can make a better, more informed decision around Zcash as well. But I think no doubt privacy is one of the highest upside narratives in crypto, and I'm looking forward to covering more of this stuff for you guys. So let me know if you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one. Have a lovely rest of your day. Peace out.